Let's be honest, there's no guidebook when it comes to relationships. So we end up having to stumble through life trying to figure things out for ourselves. What if there was a podcast that found the answers for you, that provided insight to build a successful relationship and ultimately find the companionship you've always hoped for? Welcome to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we answer the questions most people are afraid to ask when it comes to lessons in life and love. It's time to master this thing called life together with your hosts, John and Ashley.
And welcome back, all you gagsters. We are here today with another thorough Thursday, where we are in our series, which I think we're probably wrapping up soon. But we really do enjoy it. We love talking about dating after 30. Now, one of the main priorities, of course, when it comes to dating after 30 is safety.
Yes, being safe and knowing what you're looking for. Knowing what you're looking for actually makes you a lot safer because you know what type of person you want to go out with. And one of the easiest ways of doing that is with foreplay. And that's Fourplay.
Right.
If you look up the other foreplay, you're going to get other information. That's perfectly fine if that's what you're looking for. But with this, you go out with one of your friends, which makes it a lot safer to go out and meet other people that you only have a casual introduction to, but you have not met in person.
Absolutely. Foreplay is really fun also because it's relaxed. It's chilling. You guys can even, and I didn't think about this until now, you can literally go to a concert together and there's no pressure. You guys can just really enjoy yourselves, put yourself in a really fun position to where you don't have one friend, you have three now. So it's good. It's really fun. It's really safe. It's no pressure. It's easy. It's chill. It's dating the right way.
Right. Yeah, you're not sitting there on a traditional dating app and, okay, now you talk to this person, okay, now we're going to meet, and there's that small expectation in the back of your head. I was single yesterday. Am I in a relationship today? I think we are. We might be. Not really sure. None of that is there with foreplay because you're literally meeting up as friends to kind of see how things are going to work out from there.
Right. So if I were you, I would go to the App Store right now, whether it's Android or Apple, and I would download Foreplay. Or if I had any questions, I would head over to the Girls Ask Guys website or foreplaysocial.com.
Yes. And there you can kind of see how everything works. It's free to download. You can try it out, link up with another friend inside the app, and then go look for two other people that are also looking for the same thing.
Woohoo! Now let's get to it. Dating after 30. We have always told you that it is one of the things that I think people are more in their head about than anything else.
Yes. I went out and I did a lot of research, and I'm kind of looking at these over 1,000 videos on YouTube. And I kind of came up with these generalized topics of what people are discussing in those videos, along with a lot of different websites and dating websites talking about dating over 30 and all this other stuff. And these are like the general things that people are talking about. And the first one is age is just a number. And we actually mentioned that on the last, Ashley mentioned that on the last show.
I did. Yes, age is just a number. And obviously we don't mean that in the gross sense of the way. What we mean is after you're 30, if you think that you're going to snag you, I just don't see the big deal after 30 of dating someone a little older than you. Sometimes dating someone a little older can give you a perspective. They can help you a lot because they've been through those things. And while it may seem weird, 30 to 40, there's not much of a difference.
I'm in my 40s and I go out with any number of different women, and they could be older, they could be younger. It really doesn't matter to me. The relationship works because we like each other. Unless somebody's sitting there going, well, he's older than me, or I'm sitting there in my head, oh, she's younger than me. Only then does it become a problem. But so long as we're just having fun with each other and we're enjoying each other's company, the relationship works. So age is really just a number.
It really is. And when it gets down to it, the truth is, stop thinking so much about it. You're like, ooh, he's 45. So what? I mean, you guys are at the same bar. You're at the same place. Clearly, there's a connection. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a connection there. Embrace that connection and enjoy that connection.
Exactly. And that kind of dovetails into the next one, which is know what you want. Because a lot of people in their teens and in their 20s, really what they're looking at is they would like the other person to drive a nice car, have a stable life, stable career. They're looking for that stability that people in their teens and their 20s generally don't have.
Right.
So they start dating people who are older than they are. And that could be a guy, it could be a girl. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. It's just, the thing is, you have to focus on, do you want to be happy or do you want to be picky? And I say that not in a way where you don't have standards, but really, if you're going to nitpick everything from their age to this, to like their pinky toe is a little weird, come on.
Yeah. And that's really just what we cover in our course. And it's finding out what you want. Not so much the physical traits. Leave the physical traits alone. Look at the personality, because it's the personality that makes the relationship work. Just like I talked about in Age is Just a Number. Relationship works because we like each other. We like each other's personalities.
Right.
And that's what makes the relationship work. I'm not really concerned about their looks. If I get like the perfect 10 whatever, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Really.
Life's hard enough. And if you're lonely and you feel like you need somebody and you're filtering out someone just because they have crooked teeth, I mean, my goodness, no wonder you're going to be alone forever, because it's fucked up.
Yeah. And not only that, it's kind of fixable.
Right.
I was just looking at dental insurance the other day. And it's not that expensive. I could actually pick it up for like $35 a month.
Yeah, but I need like an implant. So
actually, I can send you the information. There's a savings plan that you can also get on. Yeah, so you can actually apply that, save money on it, and then your insurance picks it up. So you're pretty much in and out for free.
There we go. See, here you go. Helpful hints on Thoughtful Thursday for you. All right, guys. Like, see, this is what we're talking about. You see how easy of a problem that is to solve? You say, okay, I have crooked teeth. You solve it. But if you're judging someone based on them having crooked teeth, or maybe they walk funny, but this could be the most amazing person you've ever met in your entire life, and you're just missing out.
And the next tip that we have for you as far as these general topics are going is let go of the past. We also talk about this in our course, because when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you've probably gone through some sort of heartbreak in the past, but the past helped you become who you are. What you want to do is not let that define who you are now or who you're going to be in the future.
Yes. Absolutely. And this isn't an easy thing to do, okay? Trauma happens, and even if we're not just talking about trauma, sometimes you're in a really good relationship and it just fizzled out. And so every person you meet, you're going to compare to that person. Or sometimes you're in a very bad relationship, and every time you meet someone, you think they're that person, and they're not. People are different. No matter how many similarities you see in two people, they're still different. So you're honestly not giving someone new a fair chance if you can't let go of what happened to you.
Right. And we discussed that in our course, is kind of giving you tips and showing you how to let that stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, you don't want to sit down with somebody on the third or fourth date and start going over how your ex cheated on you for 3 years and you really didn't know what was happening until you found a photo on social media.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
You don't want to sit there and start pulling all that stuff out.
Right. And you need to work on it.
That stuff has shaped who you are. It's not who you are, and it's not your future. What you want to do is be able to rectify that stuff or find out how to deal with it so you can let it go. So you can literally sit down and focus on what is happening now and where you are going next.
Yeah, exactly. And if you just keep holding on, I just don't know how to explain it other than, it's not get over it. You know what I mean? Like I said, things happen. But how can you, I just don't understand how you can move forward. And it's hard. It's an active process too.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with the next little tip that we have is being able to let your guard down. Because if you've had a lot of unsuccessful relationships, you have this natural defense mechanism that goes up. Somebody approaches you and immediately that guard goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't let anyone in, the thought process is if you don't let anyone in, then you can't get hurt. But if you don't let anybody in, you can't find somebody.
Right. It's so hard. It's so hard for me to just kind of matter-of-factly say these things, like let your guard down. Because I'm one of the, I think we're all in our own right very guarded. There's things that have happened to us in life that keep certain things that we try and keep certain things at a distance. And so I can't just arbitrarily tell you to let your guard down, but I can say actively work on trusting people again, because it takes exercises. Sometimes it takes therapy. Sometimes it takes joining a group, and making new friends. Sometimes it just takes having vulnerable conversations with people you've never been vulnerable with. But letting your guard down is a process that we go over intensely, guys. Like we constantly are challenging you to do things. And when we say them, it's not like cavalier and we're just like, oh, just let it go. No, we're saying you need to take the steps in order to let it go and let your guard down. You can't just say, my guard's down, because I can guarantee you that's
not going to happen.
Right. Like,
I mean, I've been there, and I have been hurt in the past. I have been, and still am to a degree, slightly jaded. And it is hard to let go of the past 100%. But what I've done is I've been able to look at what has happened in the past and deal with it, realize that it wasn't my fault. So I've had people that have cheated on me in the past. Yeah, it hurt. It will rip your heart out. But I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't force them to do that. There's nothing that I did that would send somebody to go find somebody else. That other person had some kind of trait or characteristic or whatever it was that attracted that person. So that's where they went.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I think, dude, that's such a good point, because it is so easy to blame yourself in any situation. It's almost easier to blame yourself than it is to blame other people. You'll look for every way that you went wrong. And if you step out of yourself and say, wait a minute, there was something inside of them, not me. I think it helps when it comes to letting your guard down, because you realize that if I want to attract the people who aren't going to hurt me, and I'm actively working on letting my guard down, my filtering is going to be so good that I don't have to worry.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to let your guard down and be able to put yourself out there and allow yourself to be vulnerable so that the other person can actually see who you are.
Yeah. Oof, it's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. And you get those jitters going, and yeah, that first time you actually try it, it can be intense. Yeah.
And it's terrifying, it's vulnerable, and it's almost spiritual in a way, you know what I mean? Because you're letting your guard down, you're letting someone back into your life once again, and you're giving them this opportunity to almost validate your belief that you're better off single. And it sucks, because once they start doing those things, you actually are really ready to let your guard down. Sometimes it's too late.
Right. And that kind of dovetails right into the next topic that I ran across, and it's being jaded and bitter. And when you're in your 30s or even 40s
late
or
20s,
50s,
honestly,
you've been through some relationships and they just don't work. No matter how many times you try, they just don't work. And you start thinking to yourself, it's never going to happen. Well, if you believe it's never going to happen, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, even that, or kind of dismissing people automatically who are very nice to you. And I think in the age where genital pictures are sent around often, a lot of people, not just women, but men, have their guard up, because whenever someone sort of, slides into your messenger, it's like, okay, how many messages is this going to take before I see some genitals? And so people are very guarded, very, very reactive. So as soon as someone messages you, you're like, oh my, and I'm guilty of that too. Like, ugh, what do you want?
Yeah, and I've been in that. I've actually been asked to send it, and I'm like, what?
What?
We've only been talking for 3 days. What the hell?
Who the fuck raised you? You know what I mean? Like, what is wrong with you socially?
But in this age of anonymity, and if I do it online, there's no harm, no foul, that kind of stuff. What they don't realize is that they're actually dealing with a person on the other end. Now, if you want to talk to a bot, I'm sure that there's a bot out there you can find that'll whip up all the conversations you want. But I'm a person, okay?
Yeah, first and foremost, I definitely am a person.
But if you're in that negative space, then trying to meet somebody new is going to be very difficult. You can never find your soulmate if you're a cynic.
Yeah, believe it or not, that's very true. Yeah. And that's spoken from what I imagine is the queen of cynics.
Yeah. But your hair is wrong. Can't go out with you. Oop, wrong shirt. Nope.
I'm more like cynical about people's answers. I'm not shallow cynical. I'm like, ugh, you're dumb. But really, it's very true. If you approach everything in life with a negative attitude, nothing's going to work out for you. If you think dating is a chore, of course you're not going to be happy. If you think that every man who talks to you is trying to hurt you, of course you're not going to be happy. So the idea of being cynical and being jaded and bitter, I understand that you're hurt and you want to, protect yourself, but that doesn't mean you have to bite everybody's head off who's just looking to talk to you.
Which goes right into our next little topic area. Focus on having fun.
Imagine that.
it's really very easy to get caught up in what you don't have. I haven't met the one. I'm not married. I don't live in a nice house. I don't have 2.5 kids. I don't have this. I don't have that. And then when you sit down with somebody, you start grilling them in order to figure out, do you have the stuff? Can you provide this stuff?
Right.
Instead of just having fun and seeing if the relationship's going to work. Do they have a personality that really makes you feel better where you want to actually become better?
Yeah.
Look for that first, and then all those other topics will eventually come out.
Right. And focusing on having fun, I mean, let's be honest. Everybody in life is going through something. And sometimes it's nice to just be in the moment rather than focusing on everything that's going on around you and complaining about everything that's going on around you and making things really terrible and spinning the yarn to where your life is the worst. If you go on a date, just live in that moment and enjoy that moment. Set all that stress aside and really just focus on enjoying yourself, and you'll become happy. You'll get, you'll be happier. You'll leave happier. And then your outlook on life will start to sort of change into, okay, so this isn't that bad. This isn't that bad. But if you're stuck in that cycle of life isn't supposed to be fun, it's just supposed to be hard, it's going to be very hard for you to actually enjoy a date. Like, it's hard.
Oh, I think probably the biggest thing, and this comes from working with a lot of people that I have trained, and they approach dating like it's a job. Your dating should not be a job. You should be looking at dating as a relationship that's going to bring you joy, laughter, love, and it doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or your 40s.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what age you are. The point is you're supposed to be having fun. And if you're not having fun, what are you really doing? I think so often or not, we really hyper-focus on the concept of the end game when it comes to relationships. And that's just asinine, because if you can't even live in the moment and have fun just there, how can you even begin to think that there's a future?
Exactly. And brings us to the next real big talking topic that I came across, and it's the divorce bias. And really, if you're in your 30s, your 40s, or your 50s, more than likely you're going to run across people who have been divorced, especially because we have a divorce rate anywhere between 42 to 50% in the United States.
Yeah, very high.
So if you're only looking at, I don't want anybody that's got skeletons in the closet and an ex and all this stuff. It's possible, but it's going to take you a long time.
I mean, like, seriously, I think, and I can understand from both sides of, I don't want someone who's been in a relationship before, they're jaded, I'm jaded, we're all jaded together. But that's the problem, is you're automatically counting someone out because they've been married before. And the truth is, just like, if you were married before, they thought they were in love, or they thought it was convenient, or whatever the reason. People are allowed to have baggage, and you don't make it 30 years in life without some kind of baggage. And more often than not, the older you get, the more likely you are to be divorced, because, I mean, I think it's a natural process in life that people get married. So I think when you focus on that divorce bias of, oh my God, this person's been married before, that's just another unrealistic expectation. I don't know why you have that.
Exactly. And actually, I kind of reversed the whole thing. And I actually look at a person who has been married before. That's actually can be a positive, because they really know, okay, this is not what I want.
Right.
Yes, they are a little bit more jaded, and they have become a little bit more picky about the person that they're looking at going out with. But if they're looking at going out with me, then I pretty much meet their qualifications automatically.
Right, because you're not them. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, but seriously, it's very true. I understand it on a logical standpoint. Actually, I guess I understand more so on an emotional standpoint when it comes to the divorce bias. But sometimes, like I said, if you're divorced too, you understand that sometimes things aren't what they seem. And just because this person's been divorced, it doesn't mean it's their fault. It sometimes doesn't even mean it's the other person's fault. Sometimes it just happens. And as you get to know somebody and you use that filtering process, you can say, you can even ask them after a couple of dates, like, what happened? And when they explain to you, that's when you can make that decision of, if they say, she yelled at me, so I smacked her. Okay, obviously, the bigger problem is not that he was or she was divorced. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the bigger problem. So I think divorce is more of a reaction or more of an outcome to a certain situation. So instead of focusing on the fact that they were divorced, just figure out why.
Yeah, because they can actually use what caused that divorce as a lesson learned for making a new relationship actually work. Because if it was a breakdown in communication, they weren't talking enough, or they were walking on eggshells, or they were too young, or whatever the reason was that actually caused divorce, they can apply those lessons learned to the new relationship so that it has a better chance of working.
Imagine that. People learn, people grow. So to automatically, say you can't be with me because you're divorced is ridiculous, because they're learning, they're growing, and just be less judgmental. And like I say, whenever I say be less judgmental, I'm never saying don't have standards. I'm saying be fair to people.
That kind of works into the next big one.
I'm getting really good at this.
And we have really talked about this.
Ever.
Really, yeah. And it's communication. Good communication is crucial. And when you're in your 30s, you should have developed good communication skills to talk openly and honestly.
Yes, openly and honestly without word salading. You know what I mean? You don't have to vomit everything at once. Communicating open and honestly does not mean you're going to spill your guts all the time. It does not mean that you have to always have these deep intellectual conversations. Communicating honestly just simply means you are stating your boundaries, and you're being honest about, you're giving feedback, you're doing those things. It doesn't always have to turn into a very serious conversation. Sometimes good communication is, okay, we just want to laugh and we're going to keep this joke going.
Right. And if you actually get into a fight, which is going to happen eventually, you can actually move through that maturely without getting overly hyperly emotional and saying things that you really don't mean and that you are going to regret later on.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, it's very simple. Communication, while one of the simplest things in the world, because as humans, we communicate. We have like 6 different types of communication. You know what I mean? And it's very easy, but it's also something that can be misinterpreted. So you want to make sure that when you're explaining things, you're clear. If you guys ever get to that, okay, so what do you want out of this, kind of conversation?
Yeah,
if you're not looking
all
for
the time.
Yeah, right. If you're johning it up, just make sure you're prepared for the response that you're going to get.
Yeah, and really, if you're not communicating early in the relationship, it's probably not going to get better as things move forward.
Right.
And that's why I'm big on communication. That's why I bring up a lot of stuff early in the relationship, because it goes into this next one. I don't want to waste my time, and neither does the other person. So if they're not going to work out, I'll let them know. Life is too short.
That's it.
So I'd much rather go home, go and have a good night's sleep instead of going out and hanging out with somebody you're not interested in.
Right. Who wants to have a bad night because they feel like they have to date? That's so weird. That's a very weird thing to do. And wasting your time, I mean, the one thing people talk about, when it comes to dating after 30 is they're afraid that things aren't going to happen right away. Well, that's why we give you a filtering process. That's why we teach you these things.
Exactly, because I don't want to spend 3 to 4 months and find out that I've been going out with a person for 3 or 4 months and just pretty much wasting my time because it's a second job.
Right,
dating is not a job. Dating is supposed to be fun.
Yep, it is. Very fun. And I guess that's kind of the thing we're driving home here with you guys is if it feels like a chore and you feel like you have to over communicate, you feel like you're not having fun, you can't live in the moment, you might not be ready to date. And even if you are ready to date, you might not be ready to date that person.
Either that or you have not defined what you're looking for. And that's really goes into trusting your gut.
Yep.
When you go out with somebody, you kind of have this intuition. This is something that is going to go right or is something that's going to go wrong. But don't let your intuition fool you into throwing up your guard early.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And don't let your intuition fool you that everybody's trying to hurt you, because sometimes your intuition works from a place of protection and not necessarily a place of rationality. Especially if you're, still healing from past traumas and all of those things, that gut feeling may just be fear, and that's okay. But recognize when it's fear, and then recognize when it's someone who's like literally a red flag.
Exactly, and that goes into you do you.
Yep.
Don't sit there and put on an act. And this is the right person's, but they're looking for this, so I will become that.
Mm-hmm. You're not a chameleon.
Yeah, own who you are. And if that's not attractive to the other person, then they're not the person that you want to go out with.
Right. You are not a chameleon. You are a human being. You have your own defining traits. You bring your own strengths to the table. And if someone doesn't like you and they're trying to morph you into something you're not, then they aren't looking for you. They're looking for someone else, and they think that you're manipulative, or they think that you're manipulatable, or easily manipulated, I guess. But yeah, seriously. Now, to be fair, let's say you are giving up bad habits and doing all those things and you're trying to get healthy. That's different. But if you're like suddenly, you have a goth aesthetic and suddenly you've turned into some prep model because you want to impress somebody, not because you want to, but because you feel like
that's
you
what
have
they're
to.
looking for?
Right. Then you're not really, they're not dating you. They're dating some warped sense version of you that doesn't even really, or shouldn't even really exist.
Exactly. And that's part of what we show is discovering who you are, being able to define yourself. Because when you define yourself, then you're able to project that out to the world. This is who I am. This is the real me. And that's what's going to attract the people that you really could have a very good connection with.
Absolutely. And it's very fun. It's very easy, but you still have to maintain who you are. And it's easy to maintain who you are. If you catch someone trying to change you, you say, you know what, you're gone. You don't want me. You want this warped version of what you think you see in me. And you don't deserve that as a human being.
Exactly. And the last point that we have, and this is one that I constantly have to kind of work on myself, and it's don't settle, but also stop seeking perfection.
Yeah, don't settle. I like that.
Like we've mentioned, I have 14 traits. Ashley has 14 traits, and they're the 14 traits that we look for. But going out and trying to find somebody with all 14 traits could be a very long search if I actually run across that person.
Probably. That's like one person in 8 billion people. And that's insane. And I understand the concept of soulmates and finding your one true love. But the truth is, you're an ever-evolving being. And you know what? Your one true love today could radically change tomorrow. So when you make your list, make it realistic, make it flexible in certain areas. Obviously, there's some hard no's, hard yeses, but make sure that you at least are flexible.
Right. And that's why I broke my list down. And I was like, okay, what are the 4 traits that I know that I need in order for a relationship to work?
Mm-hmm.
And the other 10, well, those are broken down into, okay, these right here will work for a long-term relationship.
Right.
These are kind of nice to have, and this is like the glitter decoration on the cake. So if I have all 14, perfect. If I don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeking perfection, but at the same time, if they don't have at least those 4 traits, I already know it's not going to work.
Exactly it. And when it comes down to it, there's nothing wrong with having expectations. You should have expectations. You should have standards. And like John said, ideally 14 traits is perfect. And perfect doesn't exist. So you have to be willing to be flexible. And once again, I'm not saying let people violate you, let people treat you subhuman. What I'm saying is if someone's not hilarious, but they're kind of funny, and you can kind of see yourself still talking to them, that's different than someone who is just a bold red flag.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to settle for somebody who is you're kind of sort of into and, they're the only person right now, so I'm going to try to make this work.
Right. Yes, that's exhausting.
Yeah, and that's settling because you finally have someone.
Right.
But yeah, that's being in love with the idea of being in love.
Yeah, and that's very unhealthy.
And the relationship, it's not going to be healthy, and eventually it will not last.
Mm.
But if you're sitting there and waiting around for some
Prince Charming,
that's going to ride in on a white horse. I mean, so you have to be willing to compromise a little bit. That's why I have 4 traits that are a must, some that I know will make for a very good long-term relationship. And the rest of them, they're kind of, I can compromise on those.
I like that. Always be flexible, not necessarily compromise. Be flexible, be understanding, meet people at their level, be polite, and be in the moment. I think that's really what it comes down to. And if you're able to do all those things, you'll see relationships evolve, and maybe not in the speed you want them to, but at the perfect time, everything will work.
Yeah, and when I say compromise, I've used this in the past. I'm looking for a person who is adventurous. Mm-hmm. Now, my sense of adventure, I'm going skydiving, I'm going spelunking, I'm going scuba diving, I'm doing rock climbing, racing motorcycles. But if they're not into that, but they are willing to...
Look, I'll meet you on the ground.
Yeah, I'll meet you on the ground. But if you're looking at like going out into the wilderness and going camping or going traveling to another country and stuff like that, that's adventurous. So I have to kind of adjust my sense of adventure to meet their sense of adventure, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle. That's what I mean by compromise. They have a sense of adventure. It's just not exactly my sense of adventure.
Yeah, I agree. So guys, dating after 30, as you've heard in these last couple of minutes, is very simple and it's very fun. And I guess what we're trying to say in our overall message is you can still do it.
Yeah, you can still do it. And it's just a matter of looking at it from a different standpoint, that age really doesn't have anything to do with it. Really, it's in your own mind, and framing it in a way that it becomes something. Instead of becoming a negative, it becomes a positive, and you can do it.
You should do it.
Yeah, you just have to know what you want, be able to let go of some of the stuff that's happened in the past, be a little bit more vulnerable, focus on having fun, and be willing to communicate, but at the same time not waste your time on somebody that you're just kind of into or you're just not interested in.
And I think the easiest way, as you guys know, and I'm sure you can guess what we're about to tell you, the easiest way to start that is by, hopping on Foreplay. You and a friend hop on. You guys go to a nice little dinner. You go to a nice little restaurant. You guys all sit down. There's no awkward conversation. So you're able to use that filtering process in the way where you can communicate. You can weed out their you can see their traits. You can do all of those things in such a relaxed manner that they don't even notice the things that are happening. You can catch those red flags like that. There's no awkward conversation. There's no sizing people up. It's just pure and honest fun.
Yeah, and if you're kind of on the fence about them and you want a second opinion, your friend is sitting right there.
And there's nobody more honest than your single best friend. I promise. And seriously, we're eliminating tension. We're getting rid of everything. We're making sure that people are safe. We're making sure that people are honest. And it's never a night waste, really.
Yeah, because if it doesn't work out, well, you can say goodbye to the other two people and you and your friend can go out, I don't know, go to another club, go to see a movie, do some shopping, go get some gelato.
And if they follow you, you got a friend with you. No, I'm just kidding. That's not going to happen. But seriously, guys, hop on Foreplay, go on the App Store. And if you have any questions about it, you can always check our website, girlsaskguyshow.com or foreplaysocial.com. And don't forget, like, rate, share, subscribe, call, text.
Yeah, you can call in, you can send us a text message, you can do all that stuff. And like we said, it's Foreplay, Fourplay, Foreplay.
Yeah, Foreplay.
Yes, foreplaysocial.com, available free download on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store.
Yeah.
And with that, we will catch you on the next one.
That's all for this episode of the Girls Ask Guys show, where all of us learn to master this thing called life together. For more answers to your questions on life and love, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And head to girlsaskguysshow.com to submit your questions for a future episode or apply to be a guest on the show. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Girls Ask Guys show.